wanted to talk about unsafe detox, these different programs that are out there for especially heavy metals, I'd like to say, because I have my own experience with that. And you have to be careful about the products that will perhaps dislodge a heavy metal, but not take it all the way out of the body. That can be dangerous. I happen to have a personal experience with that, and I know that they can be very unsafe. So what happened to me over 10 years ago, and I'll tell you the product too, I took a product called Aja Clarity, and some people are going to know what that is. And this product, I'll have to get the bottle once I can find it. It's in my storage. What it did, Matt, was it was a concentrate, and you'd put it in water, and it would settle down everything in the water that was like inorganic. It would clean the water. It was like for emergency situations and that kind of thing. And I used it like that, and you drink the water. But they were doing what's called super shots. And they would just say, no, by the way, so the idea behind it was for clean water, but it's like, well, we are water, right? And so people were doing super shots, and they were just pretty much just drinking this stuff. And I'm like, okay, cool. Other people did it first, and they seemed to be fine. And so basically what they were saying was that was going to take out the heavy metals in your body. And maybe it did. Well, what happened to me was tragic, because after some time, maybe a few weeks, I don't know whether it was my detox pathways were not open. I do have what they consider MTHFR, so I don't detox really well. I have a liver, my liver doesn't function as well as someone who would be more average. MTHFR happens to about 40% of the population. They call it a gene mutation, whatever it is. It just means that your liver doesn't want to detox, those functions aren't optimal. So whether that's true or not, whether that played into it or not, it definitely affected me. So what was happening, I was getting confused. I was getting mental brain fog to the extent that I live in Phoenix, and I had lived in Phoenix for more than a few years. I knew my way around. And with the work that I do, my career choice where I went to school for is a sign language interpreter. And so I do contractual work. And so I drive all over the valley, going to different hospitals and clinics and, wherever I'm going. Well, I was getting lost on the freeway. I'd be driving, and it always makes me cry when I talk about this, because it was so hard to deal with. I'm like, I don't know where I am. I was totally lost, and I couldn't think straight. And I have to interpret. I have to remember the signs. I have to be on my game. And I was losing it, and I didn't know what to do. And then I finally realized maybe it's this stuff, but nobody had ever reported that before. So I went to see Walter Crinian. If anyone knows I think he was an environmental toxologist, but he was a older guy at the time. He was famous. And he was teaching at it's called SNM, the Naturopathic Medical College, right near me in Tempe, Arizona. And something about me is, if I'm going to do something, I want the best. I want the best person to teach me, to mentor me, to see the best professional. I want the best stuff. So I saw Walter Crinian, and he did a EDTA. He did a provocation test on me, and he did and by the way, so what I was doing with him too is he was a teaching professor there. And so I had a whole team on my case. That's the way I wanted it. And I knew I'd get better treatment that way. So it was very low cost. I didn't have health insurance. And I had 3 students and Walter Crinian on my case. And so they asked me a battery of questions. We went through everything. He finally told me, you have brain swelling, encephalopathy, or I could be saying that wrong. And we're going to see by the test. And so I had aluminum coming out. I had arsenic, which she was like, who's poisoning you? And I had a third one that was those 3 were off the charts. So I had been heavy metal poisoned, and it was proven by the test. So it took me a few years of doing the chlorophyll, the spirulina, the cilantro, I detox, whatever I knew to do at the time. I started doing a lot of coffee enemas and things like that. Eventually, I got to be where I didn't think I was going to have to quit my career. I was like, okay, I think I got a handle on this, but I've never been the same. And then, of course, you get older, and you're wondering, how much of this is just age related, or quote, I put that in quotes because really nothing is really age related, but accumulation of more poisons and toxins. So that was my experience with heavy. I had a literal heavy metal exposure and poisoning. And so when I started MasterPeace, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, whenever I met you, I noticed on day 2 that things were lifting. The first thing that I noticed come back was cognitive ability. And I could feel it lift. And so at work, I was still really struggling because I have to recall information really fast. And it's a whole different mode of communication going from English to sign language. I have to put it on my hands, and it's just a whole different side of your brain and everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got it. I got it again. I'm not struggling at work so much. Then I noticed about month 2 or 3 that going to sleep at night, dreaming, I was like in a movie theater. And I was like, oh, this is what vivid dreams are like. I was like waking up, remembering everything play by play, and even going, wait, was that real? So every single night, I have not skipped a night. Every single night, I have these vivid, wonderful dreams and they're not even like, I would even have nightmares before. And I think I had one, maybe 2, one that was kind of jolted me like, oh, that was really scary. But it's not like you're bringing up all this kind of trauma at night that you might think. And it's not like that at all. So I have to say, for me, those are the 2 things that have happened with me. And I know that is the norm with what we're hearing. I don't really notice anything else as far as my energy is pretty much always pretty high, and I don't have any real aches, and I do have aches and pains, but it's structural stuff. But so it hasn't been able to touch that or won't. But it's not just about heavy metals. It's about a lot of things too. We have to get the nutrients in, and sometimes that takes longer. But so that's been my experience with MasterPeace. And for somebody that had a bona fide heavy metal poisoning that happened within a few weeks, to be able to get that back, and it was my biggest fear was losing my mind, right? I think we all fear that. It's like, I just don't want to be one of those people. And I feel like I have solid hope now where I can continually get more and more of that debris out. Whatever it was that maybe dislodged. Okay, maybe I didn't make this point clear earlier. So that product I don't think I did. That product was very highly controversial at the time. People that were distributing it got nervous because either the product had aluminum in it, and that's been said, or it was just dislodging. And when you're dislodging stuff, when you have something strong enough to dislodge, but you don't have something to bind it, that's a problem. Yeah. And I don't know which it was for me. I don't know which it was. And actually, I took a nano zeolite. That was my first experience with a nano zeolite, one of the companies that had been around for a long time. And it kind of helped, but it didn't help like MasterPeace helped me now. So it took me many years. But yeah, so you have to be careful when you're dislodging heavy metals and now forever chemicals. Just because you dislodge it doesn't mean that it's going to safely leave the body. You have to bind it very strong. And I don't know of anything else, nor does anyone else know of anything else that's better than zeolite.